Hi everybody, welcome to Module 5, which is all about communication. We are going to do a little bit of exploring here. Let me just make that larger. There we go. Around how to have those conversations around sex and condoms and all of that good stuff. Because this is going to be the part where the people we're teaching sex ed to are going to get to use the skills to actually set their boundaries, communicate those boundaries, and talk about the risk. And so, talking about sex, one, is going to be different depending on someone's culture, where they're from, what they've been taught at home, how old they are, who they're engaging with, whether or not this is a new partner or someone who's used to them not speaking up to themselves. And we need to honor that in class. So, when we're talking to people about, like, here's what a conversation might look like, we want to use those ambiguous terms, like, this is what it might look like, here's some things you could say, rather than just assuming that we have like all the information that someone would need. So depending on their age, I might go with this Amaze video. I love Amaze for visual content to augment my sex ed classes for anyone under grade 8. When we start getting grade 8 and higher, they don't want this cartoony.
For many people, sex can be a fun and exciting way to experience pleasure and intimacy, and it also comes with responsibilities to protect your health and the health of your partner. Using condoms is a great way to prevent STIs. And for those with a uterus, condoms can also reduce the risk of unintended pregnancy. If you decide you want to use condoms, it's important to talk to your partner about it before it's time to use them. When you're in the moment and feeling excited or nervous about the possibility of sexual activity, it can be hard to pause and have a serious talk. The first step to negotiating condoms is to be confident in your decision to do so when you talk to your partner. It is important to be direct. You may say something like, "I want to use condoms and would like to talk to you about what this means for us." Then you can share any knowledge you have about STIs and, if relevant, pregnancy prevention, how to use condoms, and how well condoms work. If you don't know a lot, this is a great time to do some research together. You can also ask your partner how they feel about using condoms. Give them a chance to express their thoughts and to ask questions. Make sure to listen respectfully. If your partner is worried about how a condom might feel, let them know that condoms come in all sorts of sizes and styles. They can find one that works for them. You can even do this part together. If your partner agrees to use condoms, make a plan together on how to get them, who will get them and from where, who will pay, what kind you will get, and where you will keep them. Follow through on your plan. Then don't forget to get tested for STIs regularly. If after all your negotiations, your partner still refuses to use a condom, be prepared to say no to sexual behavior. After all, condoms can help to prevent STIs and unwanted pregnancy. Condom negotiation can be hard, but talking about what you want is an important part of sexual consent, and your partner should respect your right to protect your health.
Until next time, don't forget to visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel.
So that's an example of one of their videos. It's my favorite one for communicating on condoms. I like to also talk about, like, why do you think they did that whole bit with in the first part where the guy loses his head, literally? Like, what social reference are they talking about there? Because we need to acknowledge lived experience too, and the lived experience is that quite often people with penises are resistant to wearing condoms, and so pretending that doesn't exist doesn't help the conversation. But that's also like very age nuanced, right? And then if I'm in a men having sex with men a sort of discussion group, or with slightly older youth, I'd say like grade 8, 9, maybe, but for sure grade 10 and up, depending on the maturity of the youth that you're teaching. And certainly for any adults, I like videos like this one.
If someone asks you how you are staying safe during sex and you go silent, that's not okay. And just like protein going with the gym or Advil going with a hangover, PrEP should be going with sex.
And getting PrEP is a lot more simple than you think. Freddie makes HIV prevention in Canada easy and fast. And with Freddie being Canada's largest online PrEP provider, all you got to do is go to gofreddie.com, do the 1-minute assessment, and you could be getting PrEP delivered to your door discreetly and for free.
So again, guys, no more awkward silence when someone asks you how you're staying safe during sex. Next time you just say you are prepping with PrEP. Okay, some real talk.
Right? And what I love about this is that it starts a conversation around what PrEP is and why it's important to know what it is. Even if it's not sex and it's that you're sharing needles, like, you can access this and they literally deliver it to your door. You do not need a doctor involved. They have the doctors there to prescribe it to make sure you have access to it. So like that gatekeeping for that medication in particular has really subsided in Canada. And it's really good news for people in rural areas who might be concerned about exploring the things that they want to explore, because who wants to do those things if you can't access the harm reduction materials, right? And then also Rehearsed. I use it a lot with, it's a rather new site, but I use it a lot with my neurodivergent folk. And what I really like about this is those scenarios are there. So like you gotta make an account, it's free. There we go. It's logged me in. We're going to play against the computer just because that's fun. And it's like, so let's say the person is like, hey, I don't want to use condoms, right? And so the storyline, it runs it out here. You and your partner dating for 6 months. Place is gone where you've decided to go condom free. And so here's your options that you can use for conversation. So just for fun, I'm going to pick the middle one every time. So there's other options, and the story goes differently depending on what you click, but I've chosen, I really like you, I really like making out, I like sex with you, but condoms every time makes me feel like you don't trust me. Do you think we can switch to just pills now? And the computer is like, that's sweet, I like you too, but what about STIs? Are you sure you don't have any? And because I opted not to pick the first one, I'm gonna put, are you sure about yourself? And they're like, that's a really good question. And no, I'm not sure about myself. I guess we both need to see a sexual health specialist. What do you think? And I'm going to put, I'm sure my ex had no STIs. Do I still need to get tested? And then they're asking me, how do you know that? And I'm like, you know what, you're right. You never know, because they could be asymptomatic. So I can book an appointment with my family doctor, and I think he'll tell us about tests. Right? And this guy's like, I know the end of it. We get tested even if we're not infected, and we still need to use condoms because many STIs are not detectable in males if there's no signs, like HPV. And then when it comes to us to decide again. It's a very personal thing. What do you want to do? Right? And for fun, I will pick I prefer to get tested, consult, and then make an informed decision. Right? And you'll notice here, right, that this person's like, I can't risk it. I'm HPV vaccinated, so that's not a problem, but I want to have a healthy baby. And so it's like, and that's not that we gave a wrong answer. It's about respecting boundaries and that this can go in different ways. And so like we could try again, or we can do something else. There's lots of scenarios in here, and you can actually write your own scenarios, which is also pretty cool. It's a great way to practice having those conversations. And so for me, that was definitely a win. It's one that we've added to the Aspect website, and we're going to continue helping build those scenarios with them as well, because I think it's really important to have a place where we can role play. This is another one of my favorite videos. This one is from Planned Parenthood. They got a lot of really good videos too. I like this one for adults, anyone over the age of 14. Although I have used it for younger groups, particularly in the queer community, because they're already having these conversations. So again, it's going to depend on your people.
Got the safer sex talk down, but what about getting tested? No, not that kind of test. This kind of test. It's much easier and no studying required. Getting tested is the only way to know for sure if you have an STD. Usually, all you have to do is pee in a cup or get a swab. But even if you're all about getting tested, what about the person you want to get sexy with? Are they on top of their sexual health game? Here's how to find out.
So, I went to my new gyno today for a PAP, and she asked me if I wanted to get tested for chlamydia and gonorrhea while I was there. And I said yes, because why not? She's already up in my business anyway. Yeah. But also, like, what? I thought for all these years I was already getting tested for STDs every time I went in for my PAP.
Wait, really? Isn't that what a pap test is for?
I know, right? Well, it's not. My doctor says that pap tests are for cervical cancer, and apparently you have to ask to get tested for STDs. And there are different tests for different STDs, so you might want to get in on that.
For real? Do the tests totally suck?
No, it was no big deal.
Okay, I gotta make an appointment. I'm due for a checkup anyway. But I don't have insurance anymore. It's gonna cost a lot.
Just go to Planned Parenthood. That's where I went. It was super easy to get an appointment, and they made sure I could afford it.
Okay, I'll call them tomorrow.
Or you could try this.
So, since we're exclusive, I wanted to know how you felt about maybe not using condoms anymore.
Yeah, we can maybe do that. But I haven't been tested for STDs in a while, so I should do that first. Have you?
Well, no. Honestly, I never have.
Really? Okay, so then, yeah, we definitely need to get tested.
But what if I have something? Or you have something?
If either of us do, which we probably don't, we'll deal with it then together. And honestly, it's better to know if you have an STD. At least then you can get treated. Otherwise, it could just get worse, and we can end up giving it to each other. Come on, let's go together. We can go get tested and then have a romantic date night and see where things go from there.
Okay, sure.
And we'll talk about this no condom thing after we get those results back, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sometimes you end up talking about STD testing later than you should have. But that doesn't mean it's not worth it.
I feel so dumb. I'm really sorry.
No. It's okay. It's my fault too. I didn't say anything either.
I can't believe we didn't use a condom.
We totally should have used a condom.
And now what do we do?
Well, we definitely don't do that again without a condom. And I'm gonna have to get the morning after pill ASAP.
Yeah, that's a great call.
Yeah.
Hey, should we get tested for STDs too?
Probably. I don't really know where to go though.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Who are you texting?
It's this Planned Parenthood chat line thing. They helped me once when I had a question before.
Oh, cool. What are they saying?
They sent me the number to the closest health center, and it's actually really close to campus. They can do STD testing for both of us, and they have emergency contraception. They sent a link to make an appointment online. Should we do it?
Sure. Yeah, let's see what they have.
Yeah.
You can have these conversations, and you'll probably feel a lot better about your sex life once you do. Plus, if you talk to your partner about getting tested, you're both more likely to do it, which keeps both of you healthy and stress-free. Trying to prevent STDs is important, but sometimes you end up with one. Here's how to tell someone you've got an STD.
Beautiful. There we go. And so, like, there are some examples of, like, how we can have these conversations organically without it being, you know, I mean, talking about sex in a society that doesn't talk about sex is always going to be a little bit awkward until you get some practice. But having those ways of doing things and practicing is, like, huge, particularly for people who've never had to have those conversations before. Another thing you can do is you can make it not about sex and, like, do the, like, it's the same thing and kind of, like, destigmatize the conversation that way. So, for example, I may be like, hey, do you want to go skateboarding with me tomorrow? And you could be like, I'd love to. I've never done it before. I don't have any protective gear. Like, where do I get it? And we could talk about where to get it and what gear we think would be safer to use and figure out what our risk level is together and how to do it. Same with, like, handshakes. So, like, COVID is a real thing. So You want someone to wear gloves when they shake your hand or no gloves? Like, now that we've gone through the pandemic together, like, what are your thoughts? If someone's sick, should they still be wearing a mask or no mask? And like, and talking about how this is all very deeply personal, and yet we have to have those conversations, right? Like, if I come over and I'm coughing and sneezing and you're like, whoa, dude, like, that's not okay with me, I have to be okay with that because you are setting a boundary for your body, right? And it's the same with sex. And I really, this is really positive to come out of the pandemic, is that these conversations have been happening. And when we reframe it, where we're like, look, you've got to respect the decisions a person makes to keep their body safe, even if it's not the same as your decisions, right? And so if they're like, I only have sex without a condom, and you're like, that's not how I keep my body safe, that's absolutely okay to be like, I guess we just can't do that, right? And same with the other way around. If someone's like, no condom, no sex, you just have to be okay with that, because it has to be catering to the person who has the more structure around their risks rather than the person who has a higher risk profile. So I always try to work within the level or the enthusiasm of the group that I'm talking to. So if they're not really interested in a lot of group discussion, I will verbalize that story instead of getting them to role play it with me, right? Or each other, for that matter. If they're people with a lot of energy, I might do you remember like back in the day when they would make you like pass around a drink and like, you know, then we put the dye in it to see which one had the bacteria in it. Turned out everybody had the bacteria because we'd all touched it or whatever. You remember like where you had to pour the little bit of your water in different people's cups and stuff? It's like, STIs actually do work that way, but you throw a condom on and you've mitigated that risk. Also, we need to be practicing this stuff ourselves so that we're familiar with some of the awkwardness. For example, it wasn't until I was using condoms in my own life that I realized that when I practiced putting condoms on toys and using them that way, 1, my body was more used to the sensation of condoms. 2, I knew how much lube I needed when I was using condoms as compared to when I wasn't. And 3, I was more comfortable with the whole process of opening the package, putting it on the thing. Same with people with a penis, right? If when you're using that during self-pleasure, then your body is going to be more acclimatized to it. And then it's a lot easier to bring these things up when you're with another person because you're not having that moment. And then you can let them also brainstorm other similar conversations that aren't sexual, but are about setting boundaries and learning what each other needs to feel safe doing whatever it is you're doing, right? So that's my food for thought on talking about STI testing and conversation around it and barriers. So I hope you really enjoyed this unit and all of the modules that were in it. Again, reach out on the forum and can't wait to see you in the next one. Stop sharing.